Coming up this half hour on Trending Today USA.
Well, you won't believe why the state of New York is attacking Exxon, but attacking they are. Also, the Trending Today USA Roundtable is coming up. This is Trending Today USA, a service of conservativetribune.com and westernjournalism.com, and broadcasting on Facebook Live today. Check us out at Trending Today USA and give us a like if you would. I'm Ernie Brown. As Saudi Arabia, along with a growing list of other countries, cut diplomatic ties with Qatar yesterday, it called on its allies to cease all travel and transport with that neighbor. One of Saudi Arabia's biggest allies, however, is the United States, which also happens to maintain its biggest concentration of military personnel in the Middle East at an airbase in Qatar. Dr. Michael Makovsky, a former Pentagon official and president of the Jewish Institute for the National Security of America, joining us now on Trending Today USA. Doctor, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me.
What happened that caused all of these neighbors of Qatar to cut off ties?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, mostly the answer is that this has been going on or trending for a long time. Basically, Qatar's been playing a double game with us and some of their other neighbors, which is that they're anti-Iran. They're in a group that's focused on Iran. They house this base. They have this base, as you pointed out, that we have a lot of concentration of forces with. Basically one of our bases we use against ISIS and so on in the region. On the other hand, they have Al Jazeera, the network, the TV and radio network that espouses radical Islam. They support terrorist groups like Hamas, which controls Gaza, and al-Nusra, which is in Syria, it's an al-Qaeda offshoot, and they support other radical Muslim groups, which some consider to be terrorists, such as the Muslim Brotherhood. So they've been playing this double game, and I think, and then there were some recent things that might have just pushed the neighbors over, which I could address if you wish.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so it's unclear. I mean, it's unclear exactly, but I would say there are two events recently that might have pushed him over. One, I think Trump's visit possibly, which was a shot in the arm to the Saudis. He came to Riyadh. He put together this group of mostly Sunni countries and make clear they're anti-Iran. And I think that's a big boost of support. And the Saudis have been under their new leadership, the new king, and particularly the defense minister, who's very young, who's the son of the king, and they've been pushing a very tough anti-Iran position, which is, in my view, what is the right thing to do. Meanwhile, recently the Qatari government issued a statement on their website that seemed rather favorable to the Iranians. Now, they claim that they were hacked and they didn't do it, but that's not how everyone else reacted. Secondly, there's this kind of a murky story where they paid off about $1 billion in ransom, $700 million of which might have gone to pro-Iranian groups. And I think that also seemed to really tick off their neighbors. So they're wondering, where are you? You anti-Iran? You pro-Iran? Meanwhile, for sure, they are firmly in the camp of supporting radical Islamic groups and terrorist groups that are bad for the United States, terrible, I should say, for Israel, and also pose even an existential threat to some of our these Sunni Arab countries.
So what we're left with here is a government that's playing both sides of the coin, so to speak. But is that unique to Qatar? It seems like even the Saudis do the same thing. They kind of turn their head towards terrorist groups just to maintain their governmental power.
That's true. And there are other organizations you could even add to that. I think the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank also, on the one hand, is poised to say they're anti-terror. Meanwhile, they're rewarding terror and inciting terror among the Palestinians. So, I'm sorry?
It seems like most of those governments in that part of the world, it's kind of like, you don't bother us, we won't bother you.
Well, yeah, but exactly. But the point is with here is the Qataris are supporting groups that are bothering us, bothering the Egyptians. They support the Muslim Brotherhood, which is anathema to the Egyptian government and to the Saudis and to some of these other countries. And they support radical Islamic terrorists that pose a big threat to them. And I could say, I think on this case, the the Egyptians and the Saudis and the Bahrainis, I agree with them. I think it's good they're getting tough with Bahrain. I think with Qatar, the United States should do the same, and we should tell the Qataris, and unless they moderate their behavior, we're going to relocate our military assets, which have essentially acted as a buffer for them, protector of them against Iran. Well, we can move it to the United Arab Emirates and the Saudis and say, okay, you're on your own, man, with the Iranians, unless you're going to really be serious against the radical Islam and terrorism.
How has Qatar reacted to all of these countries cutting off diplomatic ties with them?
Well, they've looked for some mediation, and I think the Kuwaitis are trying to do something. They want to diffuse this. This is not the first time this has happened, and they then made some concessions. They've kind of papered over, move on. What you see this time is that the governments have really come really tough on Qatar. They've canceled all their air and land connections to them, and they're very dependent on that because the territory, which is very small, is kind of juts out from Saudi Arabia. So I think the pressure is really ratcheted up, and we'll see whether the Qataris are able to offer something a little more stronger. I think the United States, should be kind of with them on this, and I see that President Trump actually issued a tweet today. I think they kind of seem to suggest that.
Dr. Michael Makovsky, former Pentagon official, president of the Jewish Institute for National Security of America. Thank you for joining us on Trending Today USA.